All right, ready to dive into something pretty heavy. We're really going to dissect this blog post, The Funeral of the Bengali Middle Class, and, well, it's bleak.
Bleak is an understatement, but yeah, insightful too. And you're spot on. It's not just like any middle class. This is about the Bengali middle class in West Bengal, their influence, arts, politics. It's a lot. But when that unravels...
That's what grabbed me. It's like watching a building get demolished and fast forward. And it seems to start with this lack of opportunity, at least in West Bengal.
Right out the gate, the blog hits you with the economics. Huge job shortages, especially private sector. Then you have the corruption in government jobs. It's like building on sand.
And the next generation, it doesn't even give them a chance to fight. They're leaving. Makes you wonder about the future of this whole group.
Exodus of talent, basically. Long term, if the young folks are gone, how does this class stay influential? Disturbing to think about.
And the economy is just one part, right? This blog does not let up. Even the arts are getting hit hard. Music, film especially. I'm not even Bengali, but it feels like reading about something vibrant just dying.
Cultural drain, for sure. The author talks about 10 years ago, Bengali music had this range, this depth now. It's fading, film soundtracks the only real outlet, and don't even get me started on Bengali cinema lately.
Yeah.
Just stagnant.
It's a perfect storm brewing, isn't it? Bad economy, struggling culture, and then you add in the politics, which this blog says is a whole other mess. This blog really gets into how politically the Bengali middle class, they used to believe they had a say in how West Bengal was run, you know?
And that's where it gets interesting, because the blog points at the CPIM, the Communist Party's rule, as like the time for that feeling. Bet some listeners are surprised to hear that.
Right. Communist Party, middle-class haven, doesn't exactly track at first. So what's the blog's angle?
It says the CPIM had this image, really clicked with this group. Intellectual, austere, policy over flash, even uses Jyoti Basu, Bodeb Bhattacharjee as these examples of, I don't know, gentlemanly governing.
Not exactly the recipe for a funeral, though, if that's how things were.
Yeah, no. It argues that when the Trinamool Congress, the TMC, took over, that control the middle class felt their voice gone. Intellectual debate out, corruption, political violence, and according to the blog at least.
Yikes. So shrinking jobs, culture's on the ropes, and now you're telling me their political system went haywire too. No wonder there's this despair. But did they just let this happen?
$1 million question, right?
Yeah.
And the blog does not hold back, says the middle class is partly to blame for where they are now.
Ooh, now those are fighting words. What's the reasoning there?
It says they could have held the TMC accountable, especially with scandals like the Sarada chit fund thing, for those not familiar. Huge financial scandal, hit a lot of small investors, many the same middle class we're talking about.
So directly impacted by the TMC, and yet...
And yet, instead of action, holding them accountable, blog says there was this. Apathy. Or even weirder, a choice to just disengage.
Disengage. Shouldn't that make them more fired up, wanting to fight back?
See, that's what I like about this blog. It makes you rethink how people react to this stuff. What happens when the group that's supposed to be political, to push for change, just quits?
It's like giving up before the fight even starts, you know? But why? This whole disengage thing, that's what gets me.
Well, the blog dives into this really fascinating historical and cultural context here. It suggests that for a lot of the Bengali middle class, West Bengal, it's not exactly their forever home. You know, there's this history, this generational thing of impermanence.
Okay, now you got to explain that.
Think about it. A lot of them, they migrated from Bangladesh, right? During partition or even after. So moving, starting over, it's not this big, scary thing for them, not like it might be for others. It's like in their blood. They've done it before. And the blog's saying they're ready to do it again if they have to.
So the past, this memory of displacement, it's almost shaping how they're dealing with the present.
Exactly. And then that raises the question, if you see yourself as adaptable, transient even, how much are you going to invest in fixing a place you might not be sticking around for?
Wow. Different game entirely, like you said. But if they're checking out, leaving, tuning out, what happens to West Bengal then? Who's left to fight?
And that's where it gets even more concerning, because the blog suggests even those who haven't left, physically at least, they're still preparing for it mentally, not putting down roots, hesitant to really try for long-term solutions.
So it's a brain drain, yeah, but also hope drain, energy drain.
And it all feeds into this huge issue the blog highlights. The growing divide between this disillusioned middle class and the rural population who, let's be honest, often rely on the TMC.
Meaning, even if they're unhappy, there's no alternative, no clear way to do anything.
It's this not. social, economic, everything tangled up, no easy answers. And I think that's what makes this plug so powerful, so unsettling.
Right back to that title, Funeral of the Bengali Middle Class. We uncovered a lot, though. The economy, the politics, this feeling of, like, always being on the verge of moving on. Is this really the end for them, at least as we know them?
That's the million-dollar question the blog leaves us with. No easy answers, but it points to recent events, the protests after that junior doctor's death as maybe a turning point, Last stand of a group that wants change desperately.
But even those, the blog said it, they lacked direction, a united front. It's almost like they're resigned to it. So last thought for everyone listening. This apathy, this resignation, is it just West Bengal? Or is it bigger, something happening in other groups, other places, even closer to home than we think? Something to chew on, right?
Absolutely. And maybe a reminder, wanting things to be better isn't enough. It takes more. It takes staying engaged, believing it's even possible, even when it feels like you're fighting a losing battle.